Bear with me.
Rules.
Rules.
Yeah, there are fucking rules.
We don't like rules. Have you
Well,
not experienced this season? We don't like rules.
suck my dick.
Me during
Okay.
Come
Idle
here.
Hunt.
Come here.
So this is the jury roundtable. Hello, beautiful jurors. You have a final three now, which is Dev, John, and Scott. This is your place to talk about the final three's games, what you like, what you don't like, what you need to see from them in Final Tribal tomorrow to vote for them. Rules. Don't be dicks. If you think somebody is ugly, don't talk about that as the jury roundtable because that has nothing to do with their game. I don't know why I came up with that example. Talk about the game, not about personal things. Don't talk over each other. Give everyone the chance to speak. If this is something I learned when I was a social work student. Think about the term wait, why am I talking or why aren't I talking? So if you find yourself talking a lot, maybe try and step back and let other people talk. Yeah. So those are the two rules. Don't be a dick and let everyone speak. I think that's it. Keisha, do you have any rules?
I would say just also there's a general thing I've learned in discussing things. If you disagree, consider agreement, but adding to it. So sometimes the yes and principle is great. Yes, and consider this option as well. It just sounds better and it helps conversation flow. People aren't as defensive and it doesn't become as combative.
Yes. And I forgot one more thing because this happens every time and it's okay because like it's not really a rule, it's just keep this in mind. But if you make sure that you don't veer off into talking about like all of your games, like if you get to a point where it's like, oh, well, Haley, can you explain that to me? And then you guys just start going off on a tangent about what you all did to each other. That's not really helpful because none of you can win. So try not to talk about yourselves too much and just like keep it to the finalists as much as you can.
Excuse me, we all won. Thank you.
Yes.
No, we didn't.
So
Yes,
No,
and no, we didn't.
No, right.
Yes, I know we did.
No and no.
does anyone have a finalist that they want to start off with? If not, we'll go in alphabetical order.
Let's go in alphabetical order.
Okay, so first you guys are going to talk about Dev. I'm going to leave it up to you. If you need any structure, let me know. And I'm going to go cough.
So
Well,
I can start with Dev. So like I wrote pros and cons for Dev. And I guess we can start with the pros and then everybody can add on to it and then we can go to the cons. Is that cool with everybody?
yeah.
Sure.
So with pro that I saw from my point of view, she made it to final tribal with 0 safety after merge. So she made it all the way there without having to win immunity. She did win immunity, individual immunity early, which caused people to fear her as a competitor, which made people think twice before targeting her. And she did that in 15 minutes. Like it wasn't even, it was like, it was more than just she won. She won by a substantial amount that like made people second guess before going after her. She strategically positioned herself around allies that would go before her. I don't know where Pal is, but he was a little, I don't want to say problematic, but he would literally just stop talking to people, and that was her number one ally, and he was always going to be a target over her. And then at the end, I feel that she made herself a necessity for big moves to be made. Those moves did not happen without Dev deciding that she was going to do that as well. So that's what I have for Dev. If anybody else saw anything.
I know Sean has limited time, but I really do want to hear your thoughts. Because I know like I didn't talk to Dev until we had that vote. Like I literally did not VC with her until that day.
And I wish that I had been more collaborative with Dev. So I think Dev was underestimated by a lot of players. I'm assuming who did some activity like me and kind of thought they could rely on Dev to be a number and be a little more transactional. I think that goes to our underestimation of Dev more so than it speaks to Dev's gameplay. And I, over the last 24 hours, after some conversations that people had with me last night, am trying to give Dev a little more credit for things. Dev and Polly pushed it being Debbie. So did make some moves in the pre-merge from bottom spots. Now, they didn't know I was going to idle, but they were the ones who helped lead the direction of where we voted. And I think for somebody to transition from having lost a vote to winning a vote and then being on the right side a lot does say a lot of things. I'm not sure how much Dev did the leading on plans though, but what I'm looking for from her is to be the most aware of the three finalists. And if she can speak to times when she knew everything that was happening, whether she won or not in that round, I think that will say a lot, especially in comparison to Scott. And so that's where I'm feeling there. I'm not sure how to compare Dev to John.
Any other pros for Dev?
I mean, for me personally, like in that Frank vote, she was essential. I mean, she was absolutely essential because without Dev, I would have been gone. Same with Sean. Without Sean, I would have been gone. I have to give her that credit. And from that day, we were able to move forward and build a trust between us, which I think says a lot to her social game because we literally did not VC until the day we voted Frank out. So I think her social game was quiet, but yet she was there where she needed to be. So her adapt and adjust was very fluid.
So to add on to that, I didn't even think about this. Me and her were against each other pre-merge, and then we ended up becoming very close allies post-merge. So to go from that dichotomy where we're going at each other and she could just put that aside and adjust to gain numbers and gain, relationships going forward, that's impressive.
And I think that's in contrast to our other two finalists. I think both Scott and John had some people they were close with pre-merge who they could no longer create close bonds with afterward. And so Dev never closed the door unless that door was the eviction. Sorry, voting out door, eviction door?
Elimination?
The queen has arrived.
No, I completely agree. I think like she was very, very fluid in how she played. And she was, if we really think about it, she was one of the votes that either way she would have gone would have determined the path of that vote. But people didn't think about her being that one because there were bigger names ahead of her, so people, I agree. I think people underestimated Dev a lot, and I mean she crushed the last challenge. I mean she almost she had them cups. I mean she's going, but yeah, I mean, and having only one immunity once and getting, I mean, that was my, I hadn't won immunity up to that point. So, I mean, that is a huge selling point for her because post merge, she was a target. Everybody kept saying Dev next round, Dev next round, Dev next round, and here she is. So, I mean, she had to have done something right where we all did something not so right. So.
So then we move on to
sorry, wait, I have a thing. No, I remember telling all of her original Hajuma, like within the first days, and the kind of talks were like, do you know anybody who's played this game before? And it's like, yes, I know Dev. And Dev, I'm pretty sure I told everybody, like, we'll get to the end because she's going to play it super quiet and super low key, and she's going to sneak by. And that's exactly what she fucking did. And I will give her mad props for that because that is a way to play the game. I mean, there's a lot of players who do that in actual Survivor. They just skate by until the end. What you're talking about though, with her like always being the next vote kind of thing, but then somehow getting out of that. Yes, I see how that is pro Dev, but also like, does lack of like action on our part give her a point? Like,
Mhm.
we should have done something about that. I don't know if she
Yeah.
necessarily always like finagled her way out. I think
Yeah.
we just never took the action when we should have.
No, you're right.
It did feel a little bit like we saved Dev as opposed to Dave. Dave saving Dev would be a real problem. But Dev saving um, Dev, but Dev got here.
I can see that point of
And
view.
it
Yeah.
goes to the point that Abby, you warned all of us. Like, if nobody told us John was gonna play it quiet and get to the end. And so, like, when you know someone's MO might be to do X thing and then they do it, that is a bigger plus than this person you have no clue might do something and succeeds with the same strategy. I'm not saying
Right.
John and Dev are equal. I want to make that clear. But we got warning to do better, and they still beat us that way.
And the puzzle comp, I mean, she beasted that. Like,
Yeah.
so did Abby in her own right. I did not.
Hunter, do you have
like-
anything for Dev? For pros, I guess we're looking at.
The biggest thing I think she could do for me is just own up to, at least if she was as aware to the game as she was. Like, she was underestimated to me in that sense. So if she can at least own up to knowing more than I know of what she knows, then that would give her a little bit more credit in my corner.
Yeah.
And then when I was looking at the cons moving to the other side, what I saw was she didn't control any votes from what I saw. She used her power incorrectly. Like, she tried to use a double vote, right? She had an extra vote. Or no, she didn't have one.
No, that was
That's what it
me.
is. Okay, I don't know if she had a, I thought she had an
No,
extra.
she voted red and then lost it because she voted.
Oh, okay. So she didn't take a chance, I guess, however you look at that. For me, she was a little timid, specifically for the Abby Scott vote. She came to me 20 minutes prior to the vote and said, "Why are we doing Abby when Scott's been winning immunity?" I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to freak Kaylee, Hunter, and John out. But I was like, "You're totally right. Like, that is valid points." She's like, "I don't want them to think I'm gonna try to go be with Abby." But then she was like, "It's too late now to do anything." So I feel like it was a little timid. She had the right idea. It was completely logical. I just felt she was a little timid when she could have like stepped up and said, "No, this is best because A, B, C," you know? And that's all I have for the cons.
I also feel like the two times that we've been privy to see her argue, like to stay against Kaylee, and for Scott to like figure out who to take to final three, I don't think she sold any of those arguments. It was mostly like in her last one, she was just like, "Scott, like I said I would take you. Like, give me some pointers why I should." Like, I don't know. I feel like she didn't argue her case well enough for me if I were Scott.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Like, from her, I would need to definitely see in the speeches and the questions spot on answers. I need to see like you said, even though she's kind of in the background, did you know these votes were happening? I agree 100% with Gage. I think had she come to me with that point, because I was looking for somebody to come to me against Abby. The whole point of doing Abby was because Abby can rally. The whole point of keeping Scott was because Scott would be left on his own. And look where Scott is. He was left on his own and won out. So that was a tough vote either way. And I feel like had she brought those points up earlier in the day, because I know Hunter, I think, also felt kind of the same way. So I think she could have flipped that vote very easily. Had she actually spoke up. So yeah, I would need to see a lot of owning moves for her.
I have a question for Lewis because I feel like in the first half of the game, you worked alongside Dev. did she make decisions? What was her input within like you, Pal, and her working together?
God, it's been so fucking long now. Right. I don't think I mean, in a similar sense to what we're saying, she didn't really control anything. She didn't say anything of like, actually, can we do this because ABC? Um, I, yeah, I mean, I think she definitely, this whole thing about being in the background, kind of being that third, fourth person, it felt similar from when we were in the original tribe, which may have been like strategical. Like she maybe it is the fact that she doesn't want to be flashy. She doesn't, but for like reasons where it's like being this third, fourth person meant that everyone else went before her, and that is a completely valid strategy. If she can own that as a strategy when it comes to questioning, then perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard with Dev because like even it like if she comes in hot and like Kaylee said, she would have to literally call out things that I didn't even think she knew, or like because like when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at like a well-rounded player and I'm asking myself, like, can I vote for someone who didn't even like, even if it was just one vote said, hey, we need this person out because of this, or led a charge, like even if it was under the radar, I don't know. That's what I'm having a hard time with.
I really don't know if she. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, I don't know everything that's happened. From what I've seen, she didn't really lead the charge on anything. Yeah, but
I will say she
go on.
is good at what to say and what not to say. And she knows kind of how to work people in that way. Like she knows I'm just gonna fucking talk. And she just let me do that. Like on all the calls that I was on with Deb, she just kind of sat there and listened to me ramble on. And she probably got a lot of info that way. And I think she knows how to play her cards close to the vest while still like she convinced me a couple times that she was with me. So I'll give her that.
Abby, can I follow up on that one for a second? I'd like to
No,
know.
no.
Correct. Sorry. I'd like to know how many calls Dev initiated herself. I often felt like I was initiating the calls, and those were not often. But would just love to hear like this was the relationship I focused on, and then I allowed the other people who were focusing on me to have those relations. Like I want to know which ones were proactive for Dev and which ones were.
Even with me, I felt I was always the one.
Interestingly enough, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good, Abby.
Oh, I was just gonna say I initiated all of them except for interestingly the one where I was voted out. She's the one who called me. So I feel like she was just trying to get some recon or if I fucking knew anything, but she never actively, I think, tried to like start a plan with me in that way.
Was Dev someone calling you all, like the rest of
So
the group,
yeah,
or
even
was
with
it us
me,
calling Dev?
like I feel like me and Hunter, yeah, we both had a very good relationship with her because I think we were both looking like as an option to go to the end. So I even like made a final two, and she still never was the one that said, "Hey, like let's VC." It was always mostly was me, I think.
It's true.
I mostly would sit back and listen until you said, like, until you finally were like, well, I think this is what people are thinking. And then she would be like, oh, yes, that's definitely what I was thinking, blah, 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 blah. And so, I mean, that was every call I had with her. I mean, she was fun, don't get me wrong, but like,
She told you what you wanted to hear.
yeah, like, give me
100%.
something, give me anything. Like,
I apologize for having to step out. I did leave some questions for John and Scott's discussion in the jury chat. You can bring them up, you cannot, don't really care. But that's
No,
didn't
yeah, we'll
wanted to show you all the respect of my thoughts too, but I will either listen back or check in with folks over the next day about thoughts. And I did appreciate playing this game with you all too. And yeah, good job to the finalists. But
You're absolutely amazing, Sean. Like, you were so much fun to play with, for sure.
yeah, right.
we'll
It was
talk.
fun getting you out.
Thanks, folks.
Are you going to be there
Wait.
tomorrow?
I'll be there tomorrow. Absolutely.
Oh, thank
Right.
goodness.
We'll see ya. Bye.
We'll definitely
Have a good
bring you
night.
we'll bring you a question. We will bring you no, we will bring you questions.
I
Anyway.
mean, in conclusion, I think all of what Deb needs to show is her moves and what she knows. If she can do that, I mean, her answers have to be like spot. I mean, I don't want half-assed answers. I want no. This is what I knew. This person, because I was even just sitting here thinking, like, even when her name was up and she knew it, we did save her, and she knew that we were going to almost. So she didn't really have to fight for anybody else because people came to her with other suggestions, which got her name off. So, like, where did she really have to fight?
Yeah.
And
I think,
that
like,
is hard to know too.
for each finalist, like how I'm judging, well, I'm gonna vote for Scott, but what how I'm judging is like how good was their social game, how good was their strategic game, and how good was their physical game. Dev's physical game out of 10, 3 or 4 maybe. Strategic game, she'll have to tell me that it was anything more than a 5. And social game, again, she'll have to tell me that it was anything more than a 5. She has to convince me. But right now, her score's not too high. No shade.
Same.
Fair.
All right, Gage, what's next? Who's next?
Oh, so I got John.
All
So
right.
starting with the pros. So from my vantage point, working with him, he controlled from the point we were together. He controlled every vote but one, which was the Debbie vote. The second one, he showed he could win immunity. He has what, 2? He won 2. Hold on, babe. He had 2. He strategically formed alliances that got him further.
Mhm.
He orchestrated blindsides. I need to figure this one out because I don't know if me and Hunter were intentional or not. So that's a big thing. And then the Kaylee one, he needs to own without anybody saying, because
Mhm.
he did orchestrate that with me.
Hey,
But
Frank.
hey, Frank, we're talking about John right now.
Sorry, I was playing basketball.
No
You're
worries.
fine.
We're going through the pros and cons of everyone. We just got to John. We're doing the pros and then we'll do the cons, Frank. He managed his threat level very well, because everybody was taken out over him in that final push. There's something I feel that I don't want to speak for him. I'll wait till the final tribal. He can talk about that one. And then he went from the bottom during the swap to then in a power position all the way through the second half of the game.
Mhm.
Okay, can I say something?
Yeah.
Um, okay, I don't think John has really done that much, to be honest. And I also don't think that he was in the bottom in the swap. In the swap, when I told Sean about the whole plan to do Debbie and everything, I wasn't like, the plan was never to target John after. So like John was never like going to be in the bottom, if that makes sense. It was really just to get out Debbie, and then it was gonna go back to Pally regardless.
Okay, Sean said that he was gonna take out John after that with Pal and Dev. That's what he told me. He just left, but
Oh well, then
But
it would
you-
have been 3. It would have been 3-3 still, because I would not have taken out John at that point.
No, it's good to know both sides because, that speaks to his game as well. So,
I do want to ask, so did John like initiate a lot of alliances, or was he just added in the alliances as well? I want to know that question. Because from the outside, from my view, I don't really see John doing anything but being a follower. No shade. So
so for my vantage point, John and I had a 2 that was called the Smash Bros. And then we were with Kaylee, which was the 3. And
Triple
then
threat, baby.
we had the daddies. Like, and it was all to like, I don't know. It was initiated and talked about by both of us and with Kaylee too. So a lot of those
Okay.
were together, but was it him singly saying, "Hey, this is what we need to do"? I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay.
I'll also say, because John and I work together extremely closely as well, and then with Gage as well after merge. But John and I worked, I mean, from day one, we worked really close. And then I was worried after merge coming, but he, after merge, I mean, really solidified the fact that he was my number one. So I gave him every piece of information, especially because I had my doubts about Frank after a little bit, because Frank was my original number one, babe. But John knew every step of the way, just like I did, where, especially after merge, where every single vote was landing. I mean, we didn't engage too as well. Like, there was no surprises at all. Even the Frank vote, like, we were pretty solid on. So I mean, I do feel a little bit used, because I feel like he used me in a sense, and Gage, to direct votes, while he could kind of sit back and push the ideas.
Also, you said you being his number one, he was my number one. I don't know Hunter's relationship with them, but I know those two were very close. That's a lot of number ones that are all sitting here, and he's in the final.
I was
And
under the
Could I-
impression that Kaylee was the master orchestrator of everything. And so that's either he's a dick for not owning that, or he's really smart for not owning that and letting you take the fall there.
I
Listen.
will say it was a tag team, but I mean, he was very calculated in everything that he did, just like I was very calculated in conversations he had, even to the point where I know everybody gives him shit for the vote against me, where he was like, I don't really want to do that, instead of owning it. But I think that was part of his jury management, because him and I were that close.
But
So for
also, Kaylee, you went out at 7, so he had what, 3 rounds after that he had to show that he had something behind him other than Kaylee.
No,
so
go ahead.
No, yeah,
I just wanna say-
I went out at 7. Kaylee got 6.
yeah.
I just want to
Oh,
say,
same.
so these conversations that you guys had with John, Kaylee, and Gage, I was in a couple of Alliance chats only because he was allies with Kaylee and Gage, not because
Mhm.
of John. And I didn't have those strategic conversations with John. That's why I didn't really trust him. So these conversations you guys experienced, a lot of us didn't experience that.
Mhm.
So it's hard for us to sit there and say he played this strategic game, he dominated the game, when we didn't see none of that. And then the chance
Right.
he took to own the fucking game, he pushed out and said, "Oh, I really don't want to vote you, Keely, but there's nothing I could do. Fuck that." If I would,
Right
if
after
that was
Gage had
me,
said what
if
he
that
said.
was me, I would have been like, "Kaylee, your blood's on my hands. I have to send you packing because you wouldn't beat me."
To be
So,
fair,
And that's why
though,
Gage said what he said. Yeah.
to be fair, though, that
those conversations you guys had with John, I didn't have them. So I can't sit there and say he was so smart, because every time we had a conversation, Kaylee and Gage, I had them with you guys first before I even discussed it with John. So
Because we loved you.
yeah, I was in alliances with him because he was close to other people I was close to.
Yeah.
I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like a winner should be flexible in their gameplay. And I do not feel like John was that flexible, like with working with other people, other than like, obviously when he had the blind side, or if he did blindside you, Gage, or whatever the case may be, or Hunter, whoever he blindsided, if he did. But I feel like towards like the beginning and like the middle stage, his game was really flexible. Like if you told him something, he was gonna go back regardless to the same people. Like he never was really like flexible and working in a different aspect, you know?
Right.
So I feel like
I
he maybe would have been with Debbie, maybe, but
I agree that he lacked in the social department because that is a huge piece of this, that even though you have your allies, you still have to make an effort and do jury management and talk to everybody. And he didn't. He really didn't.
I
He had
didn't have one game conversation with John the
He
whole time.
didn't
I was
trust
on
you
the-
at all.
Well, good.
But I
was
don't know
on
why
the
he didn't
original
talk to you.
Kajuma, and not a single little word was
That's what
said.
I'm saying. I don't know why he didn't talk to you. Yeah.
Also,
No.
why was I the Venus flytrap?
you were like, you and Brea, like he was so threatened by both of you. He wanted you two out more than anything.
but that's why I
That
did it. That's why I did the Debbie thing, because when he came to me with the whole plan and everything and told me about it, I was just like, I mean, because we didn't really have game talk, so I kind of just wanted to like throw it in his face. I'm not gonna hold you. So that was the whole reason why I even did that. And then like he like argued with me in DMs like during merge, like when we finally like brought it up. I told you guys like when he was mad at me, he like started arguing with me about it. But like I don't know. I don't feel like he was very flexible. Like I really don't feel like he was that flexible.
And I'll agree with Brea there as well, but I will also say that he clearly had his people, because if he didn't have his people, he wouldn't be where he's at. So while that can be seen as a negative because he wasn't as social, he really didn't have to be.
He had like
because
he had 3 ride or dies who
that pushed moves.
Yeah,
He had
but
Hunter that had an idol, and I'm sorry, but he keeps. I'm finding out more and more that he's keeping close to his chest, and I wouldn't be surprised if he fucking has the merge idol either. I would not
but
be surprised. And in that
but
case,
him
if he
having
made it to
3.
the end with a fucking merge idol and didn't have to play it,
yeah,
being as antisocial as he was, I mean, that speaks a lot too. But he has to. When I say he has to own his moves, I don't want to hear none of the what Frank said. I don't want to hear none of the, oh, I'm so sorry, I voted you out.
if he tries to pander to people's our emotions because we were friends, I'm not voting for him. I'm
Lewis.
just like,
So I agree.
Okay,
Lewis,
but
what?
okay.
if he had played the idol, what would have happened?
in what situation?
Like it was Final Four, where it was Final Five, where it was like the last chance you could play the idol, and who would have?
He
would've-
would have been safe, and I would have gone home. No, it was me and Dev. He coordinated
have
that,
to.
so he didn't have to. I think he voted Hunter to throw his vote because it was supposed to be 3 votes on Dev, me, John, and Hunter.
Alexa, shush. Sorry.
So it's supposed to be me, John, and Hunter on Dev. Scott put his 2 votes on me, and John threw his vote over to Hunter, knowing he had an idol, to tie it up so he could say, oh, darn, I didn't want to go. And then I was out. But he has to own.
Yeah.
And that's if he
But
has
is
the
that a
merge
good
idol. I
move?
don't think Dev
That
has
seems like
it
a bad
because
move to me. That seems like a bad move. Let's piss off my allies instead of just owning it. That's another thing. He's not owning what he's doing. That's not a good move. That's a terrible move. That's
I think it's a good move if he owns it, because
he
I
has to
feel
own it.
if I was with him and Dev went and it was me and him and whatever, I think I look better than him. That's just my perception. I feel like I would beat him side by side. So I feel like getting me out was smart. Getting Hunter out was smart. He couldn't get Scott out because of the immunity, so he got the next best thing.
Okay, but did he make it to the end because of himself, or did he make it to the end because he had protection with all his ride or dies? Because if you told one of y'all something, regardless, low-key, y'all had numbers in like a lot of fields.
Yeah, that's totally important.
So did he really get there by himself,
He
or
did,
did he
because
get there because
he stabbed us all when he
He
needed
relied
to.
on a lot of us for a lot of like social interactions and gathering information compared to him having to himself.
Yeah,
Like,
but
But
he
then
didn't
he
need
has
to because didn't he? Y'all just said that y'all all was his ride or die. So did he really need to stab y'all in the back when all y'all had his back regardless?
at the time, yeah, because I would have beat him, Hunter would have beat him, and Gage would have beat him. I'm 100% on that. Like, there's Hunter navigated with a public idol. We all know how. I mean, I personally think I would have beat him, but I don't know. But and then Gage, I mean, immunity and taking me out could have very easily owned taking me out over John. When I know it was, y'all worked together, but like, if he really orchestrated that, I need to hear that. If he really orchestrated taking Gage out, I need to hear that. If he has the idol, I need to know that he has the idol and orchestrated the votes not to have to play it.
So
Like,
who's a
I
Big
need
Brother?
to know
Who's a Big
all the
Brother fan
blood.
here?
I need to
I'm
know
a
all
Big
the
Brother
blood
fan.
before
Okay,
anything.
you guys know Paul. He played like Paul. I keep lying. I don't really want you. You guys are friendship. I don't want to stab you guys in the back. He's played like Paul, and guess what Paul did? They lost.
And I hope that
Paul's
he
one of
has
my
the same
favorites,
placement as
but I think
Paul because
Paul
I'm
should have
voting for
won.
Scott regardless. So
Second.
Who's
I
Snapchat?
don't know. I do want to hear, like, I want to hear, and this is, I mean, I know we're about to get stopped, but I do want to hear everybody's arguments because I do look at gameplay. And there might be things that I don't know. I don't think there are completely, but there I'm sure there is. And so I would rather hear those, and speeches sometimes and questions sometimes can make or break who wins one of these games. It's all part of it as well.
I feel out of the three, if you're looking at strategic, like outwit, outlast, outplay, I feel like John had a more well-rounded game. I know it wasn't as strong in the social department, but it was strong enough that he had enough allies that kept him in this game and dominated the second half of this game. So
Okay, but let us not forget
I disagree with that.
he doesn't even think his own girlfriend is hot. He doesn't
Yeah,
even think
that's
his own
red
girlfriend.
flag.
That's minus a point.
Okay, hi, hold on. I'm gonna jump in here really quickly just to provide clarification on that. One, that is personal, not game.
Okay.
Two, when at the tribal council, someone said something about his girlfriend, and I said, "Is she?
Oh my
is she
God,
hot?" And he
I'm
said, "Yes."
kidding. I'm
But
kidding.
no, because I think it was my fault because then I made a joke about how he wasn't automatically like, "Oh, she's the hottest, most beautiful woman." I was messing with him, so y'all.
Megan,
He was so
we're
embarrassed.
kidding.
But
What's his
anyway,
girlfriend's name, anyways? Does anybody know?
he didn't want anybody to know he had a girlfriend because he was flirting with Brea. But anyway.
so he was being a little social with Brea.
I mean, it wasn't social. Okay, calling a night call date night, which he's the one that came up with that, but calling it date night, that's not being social. That's just naming a call. But I will say he did initiate a lot of calls. I don't know if he did with other people. He did initiate calls as opposed to Dev. Don't think that his game was strong enough for someone to represent the season.
I
If that
mean,
makes sense.
yeah, no, I respect all those point of views as well. I talked game with him every day. So, but I mean, I talk game with a lot of you every day. So, but
I mean,
like,
also look at Sean, what Sean put in the chat, because I'm just reading it now.
Can you read it?
Yeah, Sean says he just played really quietly and didn't own a ton of moves. Also, am personally a little bit thrown by always laying in bed, being passive, etc. Wish that he came across more invested throughout all aspects of the game. I would agree with that.
Exactly that.
I feel
No,
like we
he
were
seemed
all really trying.
he seemed so disinterested every time I was on a VT. He just felt like so disinterested and not there, like just there to be there kind of thing. Like I felt like I was carrying the conversation every time I was with him.
I
And
feel
those
that
aren't the conversations I had.
I feel he did care. I
Mhm.
feel like everybody's putting expectation on what everyone thinks it should be depicted to be social, to show that they care. Like, we can't judge somebody if that's how they process their emotions and their anxiety, and that's how they decide to present during this game. Like, for me, I know I was in the bed a lot and I wasn't super like engaged, but that was like a self-defense mechanism. So I was like, let me be in my safe space. So whatever happens, like I'm okay.
But like I didn't feel the same way with you though. Like you say you're doing the same thing, but I really didn't feel the same way whenever I was talking to you. So
Again,
mean,
I don't care about the bed thing. That don't bother me. But you guys are just being petty. But like I said, you guys had different conversations with John than most of us had. So we
yeah.
really, the chances he had to shine out there during tribals, which we got to see, he played, oh, woe was me. And that just, to me, that just, I'm sorry, he played like a little
The
pussy.
truth of the matter is, everybody in this jury, John had a part in sending.
Gage, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick because not everybody was here for the rules. We're not gonna name call or talk about people in different ways. So we're gonna make sure we keep this respectful. I just want to make sure we keep that above
I did
board.
not mean it in any disrespectful way. I apologize.
Okay, so my point was every single person in this jury, John had a hand at sending them to this jury. I don't think any of the other two people can say that.
No, I agree. And I mean, I know the conversations are different. Again, this is where it's going to come down to the speech and the questions for me, because I know Scott's game somewhat, and I know John's very well. I don't know a lot of devs, and so that's where speeches and questions are going to make or break it for me. Because if John doesn't own these moves, if John doesn't come out and say, yeah, this is my blood, yeah, that's my blood, yeah, that's my blood, and own it, and instead relies on, like Frank said, that friendship aspect, you're not going to get my vote. At that point, it's going to go to Scott, who I believe is the next most well-rounded player that there was. So that's the segue into pros for Scott. Gage.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, so
Yeah,
Gage, you just said that John had a part in everybody's vote. Did he have a part in Pally's?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, does that mean that he should be voted to win, or does that mean that he just was in the right talks with you guys, that he was voting correctly because he was in the right talks?
I feel like every single one of us are here because we tried to make moves and we tried to play this balance of making moves and laying under the radar. And he did that perfectly. He literally was a part of the core conversations to decide every single person that is here. I don't know minus when I left. I know up until when I left, 100%. Hunter was in those conversations. Kaylee was in those conversations. Frank was in those conversations before he left. So I know that for a fact that he was in there.
I'm not gonna give him that. I'm not gonna give him that.
Yeah, I was thinking I'm not giving him that either.
No,
But
I
why?
will
also give
But
him that
why?
majority. I'll
But
give him
why?
a majority, but I really think no team. I think I completely steered the Lewis vote. I think that I like had a big hand in the Poly vote as well.
But I'm
I
not
won't
saying,
lie.
I'm not saying,
It was you.
I'm not saying he steered it. I'm saying he had a hand in it. I'm not.
No.
Well, yeah,
I will say
vote
he
is a
did steer
hand.
some votes. Abby, you're right. You did steer the Lewis vote and the Poly vote. That mostly came from you, and that was navigated, and it was the best for everybody's game at that point. So it was an easy push. I will say that between me, Gage, and Hunter, there were times where each one of us would push something and he would listen and he would come back with what his ideas were. But then there were multiple times where he would be like, well, guys, what about instead of that, we do this? And it would flip right around. So, I mean, I would say that it was equal between us. Who pushed the vote.
Yeah, but it was okay. Go.
So I think this is a testament to his game, and I think it's funny that Brea and Abby, you two were the two votes that he specifically said he coordinated. This is what he wanted to happen, and you're the two that feel this way about him. Like you two, 100% was John. John wanted Abby, then John wanted Brea. So those two
No,
were.
I don't feel this way about him because I feel like the reason why he was able to be like laying low is because everybody was more so on Kaylee than you. It wasn't really because of him laying low though. It was because every time that something seemed to come out, it seemed like that someone else was the one saying it. But like it
Because he
doesn't mean
used
that
me.
but
Because
it
he
doesn't mean that
used me.
but it doesn't
Okay.
mean that he's like strategically laying low though. Like he's not strategically laying low. It's just everybody was more so worried about, and also Hunter's idol too. That was the talk. Everybody was also worrying about that stuff. It wasn't really him because Dev also didn't say nothing and was laying low. Like it wasn't really like their own choice to lay low. It was because of how everything played out that they lay low.
I see what you're saying. But I also think I do think he did lay low in the terms of that's what he could do. I don't think that that necessarily may have been what he wanted necessarily to do, but he did lay low because he had me, that he knew I was vocal enough with enough connections to push votes, to say this, to look like I was orchestrating everything. And I mean, I'm not going to downplay. I did have a big hand and I did have a lot of conversations with people and I did know everything that was going on. And that's why he did a lot. But at the same time, that allowed him to take that back seat of, I don't really have to go out and push these things because I've got Kaylee engaged and Hunter
But
that'll do it for
okay, so
me.
that just from my point of view, so I see myself really close with Kaylee from about half the game.
We were.
And I knew at some point I was gonna have to separate myself. And for me, John had that chance to separate himself, and he goes, "Well, it's really Gage and Hunter and everybody else doing it, not me." And that's to me, it's just such a like a bad move. It's just like, so what if you own it at the end of the game? Because like anybody can claim whatever they want at the end of the game. Own it during the game. Don't like.
But
don't
do you think if he did that, Scott takes him out over me because now he has a big move and he's a bigger.
But he has the idol, right? He has the idol, right? So on top of that, if he has the idol, he could have saved himself. He could have made another flashy play and be like, I really have a chokehold on this game. And
if he has the idol, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He chose to sit back and be like, "Oh, Kaylee, I don't want to keep you. I want to keep you, but there's nothing I can do." That's just, to me, it's just too passive for me. Honestly, I don't think any of three of them played that great, in my opinion. We're just talking about John. So I'm not here to sit there and say like Dev and Scott played this masterful game, because I think they're all very flawed. Dev, I have no idea what Dev's doing. Scott, he had to win out. Yes, he was in a bad position, but it was because of Sean flipping, which John benefited on that vote, because ultimately, if it would have went the way that we wanted it to go that night, Scott, Ivy, myself, and Hunter would have been in the power position, and not John. So basically, Sean flipping decided the fate of this game, and he got lucky. We got unlucky. So,
but see, that's what makes Scott good though, character development. And like something changing.
Yeah. So like that's why I'm saying like none of these three played amazing, but to me, John is so flawed because like he had opportunity to say, "Hey, this is my game," but I felt like we never got that. I never got that in a personal conversation. I never got that during tribal, and those are the only opportunities I had for me to see his game. And he chose every chance to sit there and relax. Him laying in the bed is just a metaphor to his game. It's just the way I feel about it.
I know we're about to be.
Agree.
No, go ahead, babe.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I agree with the whole what you're saying, Frank. There was one time where I thought that John was gonna control something. It was again during the Debbie vote. When he came to me, he said, we need to get out Sean. And I thought that this was like his coming up plan. And then he was like, we need to get out Sean, but I don't want to do Sean. So I was like, okay. And he's like, but Gage and Debbie wants us to do Sean. So I was immediately like thinking that he was just a messenger and that they sent him as like, like a mailman to come and like deliver the mail of who needs to go, because he claimed that he didn't want to do Sean. Well, he claimed that he didn't want to do Sean, but then sat there and said that Gage and Debbie wants us to do Sean. So like I feel like I don't know. I feel like he wasn't really like controlling anything. I feel like he was kind of like
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know, just
I
like
feel
following the.
that's one instance, and he's literally
But I
was
haven't really talked to him. I don't know other like I'm only going off of what I have seen with my own eyes. Not like I get what you're saying, but like it's hard to really say that his game was like good when to the outside of you guys, he
So I
wasn't
know
really
we're
like
about to
doing
transition into
anything.
Scott and talk about Scott, but I just have a question for those that aren't quite maybe so open-minded, we'll say that. What would it take? What, like, again, the same thing with Dev, but what do you need to hear from John and we'll ask the same thing about that, but what do you need to hear from John to consider to vote him to win? Like what aspects do you need to know?
I need receipts. I need receipts.
Receipts.
Yeah.
receipts.
My question
timeline.
my question to him is just going to be, why should you win over the other two? Like
Mm.
I want to hear his whole reasoning on why he should win on the other two. Basically, like elevating his game over both of them and saying how better his game was. I just need to hear that. And yeah.
He needs to sell his game as good as Gage is doing right now, if not better.
Yeah, Gage, be his lawyer.
No, I mean I
Like,
agree with Gage on a lot, but it's hard to sell something when you guys haven't experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
I think that speaks to I think there's pros and cons to the style of game that he played because he had his people. That's how he got here. But then so that didn't that led to his lack of need, right, to conversate with other people, I guess, if you want to say it that way.
Okay, so
Which he
I
did
feel like
poorly.
I
Which
feel
he
like
did
there's
poorly at.
good. Okay, my question to each of the three jurors, or we're the jurors, the
Finalists.
the people. My question
Finalists.
to each of the people. To me, this season, my narrative is that it took on the feeling of heroes versus villains, right? I felt like me and Scott and Frank and Hunter were the heroes in my narrative, and y'all were the villains.
Damn.
No,
I was a hero.
Well, look, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's just because I voted you out.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I feel like I want to know who John thinks he plays like, because Sandra was a very sneaky player, didn't really let her moves be known, but she won twice because it all eventually came back to Sandra. That's what I need him to prove, that it all eventually comes back to John.
Yeah.
I'm actually fixing to go to class, so I want to go ahead and just say my thing about Scott real quick, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. So the same thing I heard when I first came on about Dev and Abby, when Abby warned everybody about Dev, is the same exact thing about Scott with Carlos, because Carlos told everybody to vote Scott in like the beginning rounds and stuff. And he was like, like really trying to get Scott out. And he was like, if Scott does not get voted, he's very social. He's very good at comps, and that he will, make it to the end. And Scott also made it to the end as well. So I do want to like throw that out there too, because
you told me that, like, I think the day prior from you leaving, you were like telling everybody that happened, and if he gets to the end, it just proves that point.
like we were all told about Scott as well, just like how Abby told us about Dev. So, and for him to still make it to the end is really should be credible.
Yeah. So the pros I have for Scott, where is it? So he won when he needed to. That's the big one. He used advantages correctly 2 times, not just once, twice. He used them correctly. He managed his threat level, so his number 1 ally took the hit over him with Abby. He made social connections to be willed advantages after people went out, so it continued to give him that support. and he was extremely strong socially throughout. It was consistent. I mean, I think he iced me out one vote, the Kaylee vote, which is fair because he was gonna vote against somebody that I was close with, but he was extremely strong socially. So that's what I have. I'm sure you guys have different experiences with him.
I mean, I think Scott's such a sweetheart. He's hard not to love, right? That's first and foremost. He's a good player. He's strategic. He has absolutely won when he needed to. He won out. I will say after Abby left, and which is the reason why we sent you out, is we knew Scott would be on an island all on his own. But Scott on an island all on his own did more damage than anything. And I think he was underestimated when he left. Which is where I can say Dev, should have pushed him over you. Scott went from being all alone to winning immunities to having to play as idol. But he escaped. I mean, he would have been gone at every single one of those turns. Had he not saved you the night of live night, you probably would have been gone that night. You were the next one to go. So as soon as he saved you, that saved your ass, and Sean was the next one out. I mean, Scott coordinated, but he also laid low enough to me where the blood is minimal for him, because he did push votes and he had great ideas, but then he also wasn't afraid to make big plays. And speaking to his game, I know for myself, I'm so sorry, Scott, I love you so much. I iced him out on a couple of votes at the end there because I knew that it was going to have to be him at some point. And we still talked, but it wasn't anything about game. And it was just because, it was rumored he had the idol and other things, and I just wasn't close with him. I was counting on my core group to keep me close. So for him to navigate all those votes at the end and still be there and still make power moves while being there, I think speaks amazing to his game. And I think having the two that he's with are his best shot. To be completely honest, I think honestly he had a good shot against anybody, given his story, but these two are probably his best shot. And he orchestrated enough to get to that point with them. I mean, there's nothing really negative that I can say about his game because he took the chances that he had and he was social with everybody. He found time while he was at swim meets to be on VCs. He always checked in, he was in alliances, I think, that he needed to be in. Him, me, and Frank had the old people alliance because we're all old.
Oh, wow.
We had the alliance with Lewis. It was me, Scott, Abby, and Lewis and Frank.
It was all of you. It was all of you OG Hajumas and me. That was in
and
that
then we
top
had our own alliance without Lewis.
Yeah, I figured that was. I figured that was the case as well.
But I mean, he really did navigate this well. And then once Abby left, I mean, he was like a lost little puppy, which we expected him to be. But he didn't let that. He did not let that stop him, where he very well could have. He very well could have just laid down and died, and he didn't.
And he owned all of his moves. Like when he made a mistake, and if he voted the wrong way, he definitely owned it. Like he literally said it. Like he didn't sugarcoat it. He was like, "Look, I did this the wrong way. I was on the wrong side. I'm sorry." Like
Not
he
with
owned it.
me. Not with me. After the Kaylee, he came whining, "Oh, Frank lied to me. Frank lied to me, or someone lied to me." And I was
I
like,
didn't lie.
I was just gonna give him props because he was one of two people after that vote that came to me and apologized.
I had a different
said, "Hey, I had to take the shot. I hope you respect it." And I was like, "Absolutely, I respect it. Like, how do we move forward?" But I had to give him mad respect for that too, because he could have just been like, "Oh shit," and just again sat back and did nothing.
He did that with me
I
too.
want you
When I
guys to not forget to let people who haven't talk. I haven't heard from a couple of people, but also Sean made comments about his thing in the chat.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up Sean's question. Sean says, and I quote, Scott regularly said that he didn't understand what was going on, open bracket, final 20, final 7 tribal, convo between Abby and I, close bracket. Was this a liar or did he actually not have the game awareness?
Can I hop in?
Yeah.
For my pro, I will do pros and cons for Scott. Yeah, anyway. Pros, he's the fucking definition of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Like literally, he like did the end all by himself, and I'm super fucking proud of him, and it was super scrappy, and that's badass, and good job. I feel like Scott and I played super similar games socially, but he took it a step further by also being good physically. So I think those are his two strengths, and he did it very well. If he lacked strategically, he more than made up for it socially and physically, in my opinion. I will speak to what Sean said. Yeah, Scott, I think I carried him through the first half of the game. I'm going to be so honest with you. I think all the decisions were mine. I had to fill him in on what was happening a bunch. But he got it, and I think there's a little bit of like an underdog story here of him like learning how to do it, and then he fucking did it.
Again, Scott was somebody I was in alliances with because he was close with people I was close with. So, like I said, I don't think any one of those three played amazing. Scott definitely had to be quiet, son. Um, he had to fight his way to get to where he's at. Probably harder than the other two. Um, he was very funny, very social. Um, but strategically, I went through Abby to have those strategic conversations for me. And I knew if I was super close to Abby and she told me, she's like, I got Scott, just trust me. I trusted Abby more than I trusted Scott, if that makes sense. Um, so to me, like I said, it's gonna be really depends on how they answer these questions. I don't. At least Scott was outspoken and kind of did his like he was fighting, and I felt like that's what sets him aside from the other two. I felt like the other two were not. I felt like they were like, I'm along for the ride, where Scott was like, I'm trying to make my own ride, and that's the way I feel.
He
I
played
don't.
the opposite of Dev, like exactly opposite
Yeah.
of Dev.
So
Well, I'm fixing to go, but my last thing is I will say that like when I was on the phone with Dev and John, conversation wasn't as fluid and stuff. And like I felt like I was the one more so saying stuff so they can like get it. When I was on the phone with Scott, even when Scott was like against me, he still was giving stuff and like the conversation was still flowing in a point where like I have thought sometimes that like he was actually going like he was actually like working with me as well. And stuff and like, like he'll give hints of like he's in alliance with Abby and like all like, like I knew some of the alliances he was in because he'd said them, but like then like he would like switch the conversation where I'm thinking about something else other than what he like already gave me. Where the other two, I had to keep the conversation going. And Scott was the one that kept. So I think that he was definitely very fluid in his gameplay. Oh,
My
and
only
I'm gonna go. I'm not, huh?
Bye, Bray.
No,
I
you're good.
love you.
Bye, Bray.
Oh wait, were you gonna ask me something?
No, I was gonna put it out to the group. The
Oh,
only thing, and you could probably answer if you wanted. So the only thing, from my vantage point is after Abby leaves, he had nothing set up behind him that would make him not have to win. So the only thing for me, he needs like what he needs to do to get my vote is explain to me what plan he executed, and I think he did it with my vote, and I think he might have done it with the Hunter vote, but he needs to articulate like, yes, I didn't have the social capital left in the game, but I knew I had these power, and I just need him to articulate how he strategically maneuvered after Abby left. Does that make sense? It's hard to
Actually,
Mhm.
after Abby left, when he apologized for everything, because mind you, I was asleep, so I had a cell phone. When he told me all what happened, it was one vote. It was one vote. I think it was the round that I went home. So he was trying to he came up with this whole plan with me, him, Dev, and he said he would talk to Hunter, which Hunter can vouch if he actually talked to him about the plan. But like the plan was for all of us to work together on a vote to, I think, send home Kaylee and stuff. And he was trying to come up with that, and he made like a whole huh?
He never approached me with that, no.
Well, he tried to come up with that. He said he said he sent you a voice note with the plan.
I mean, I guess that might be possible. I don't remember the voice notes as much as I do when I like actually read the messages, but to my knowledge, the only time that anyone ever came to me about Kaylee, except for Gage and John, was when we were trying to do it on live night.
Well, he claimed that he sent you a voice note because he didn't want to like say it fully because he didn't know if you were actually with them. But he made a whole alliance chat with me, him, and Dev to hash out this whole entire plan. And then he said he sent a voice note to Hunter. And then obviously, I got voted out, so it didn't matter. But he was at least still trying to like come up with something even without Abby there. Is what that to be like noted. But
I mean, he did have a plan a little bit because he had the idol, and for the longest time, I knew the second he found the original Hajuma idol, and I kept that secret until I told Frank and I told Hunter because we needed it potentially for the Kaylee vote. And even then, like it wasn't as public as Hunter's idol, so like that was his backup plan. And fair enough, he found that idol.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know until Hunter told me. So I don't know. But Hunter, you've been awfully quiet this whole time. I would really love to hear your thoughts. I'm not gonna lie, like I really would like to hear them.
I mean,
just before you start on the topic of being quiet, I'm mainly being quiet because I don't know the meat and bones of their games as much as you guys are. So that's why I'm being observant. That's why I'm listening to everyone, and that's why I'm not saying a lot.
Well, you were my next call out, so thanks.
I'm just not as outspoken in a crowd. I don't know.
No, but I just really would like to hear both y'all's thoughts, to be completely honest, because everybody has their own viewpoint, I feel like.
For sure. I mean, to go to John, after the merge, so going into the tribe swap, Debbie and I had worked together pretty well, and she had told me, she was like, if you get on with tribe with Frank, try to work with him. He's a good guy to work with. So that's what I ended up doing. And then going into the merge, when I started talking to John, he said that Debbie had said the same thing to she was like, he's a great guy, like talk to Hunter, this and that. So like I feel like I kind of fell into that kind of thing with John because of the Debbie connection from earlier in the game. But then beyond that, like moving up until the Gage vote or even the Kaylee vote, at least to because I didn't know how close he was with you, Kaylee, or even with you, Gage. He was never my straight number one. It was always one of you guys flip-flopping each week between the two of you.
Same with you, just so you know. All three of you flip-flopped.
Yeah. But it was very quiet towards me, so I don't know as much about that, like that side. He was talkative to me. I got a lot of good conversations from him, but the game was always kind of just cut and dry. It was always like, this is what we should do. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's what I was talking to both of you guys. I was like, that's what it sounds like everyone else is doing. But then with Scott, like I was with him back from Hajuma 2.0, and he never really talked to me too much until Abby got voted out. I mean, a little bit prior, like a little bit, like here and there once the merge happened, but until like it started kicking in for him, he didn't really talk to me too much. And even then, it was never much game. He tried to, almost like we all said Dev was doing, he never really gave me much. He was relying more on what I would give to him in those moments. So honestly, my vote's up in the air between the two of them. It does come down to if John is willing to own up to the things that he, like you said, if the blood is here, the blood is there. He needs to say where that blood is. And then with Scott, it needs to be more of like not a injured bird story. It needs to be more of like a triumphant story. I mean, this is called Triumph. I need to know why he triumphed.
I need to know what he did without Abby.
Right.
No offense. But every single time I talked to either you or, and this is why we had to separate ends, is because every single time I talked to either one of you, it was, oh, well, let me see what Scott's doing, or I can talk to Scott about this, or it was, oh, let me talk to Abby and see what Abby's doing. I mean, it was not any one or the other,
say
but
this for Scott, he managed me when it came to that initial right at merge. Me and Abby didn't really talk. Like we talked here and there, but it was never anything substantial. He was the one who kind of like would relay messages from Abby to me. He would be like, yeah, Abby said this is cool. Like, so he did manage that. Like, yeah.
But it wasn't without Abby though. You know what I mean? Like it was still Abby saying,
yeah, he spoke for Abby. Yeah, he was speaking for Abby.
Like that's what I need to see from him. I mean, he played really well. He won out. He clearly did. Lewis, thoughts?
Yeah, he won out.
I mean, you have a unique point too because you're one of the ones besides Polly that's been the longest.
Yeah, it's been away from for the longest. So, I
didn't mean any shade by that. I just wanted your opinion.
How dare you? No,
I know.
No, of course, I know. I mean, it's just factual. I had good. Me and Scott. I can't English today. So I knew Scott before the game. And that's why because we had good relations prior to the game. So every conversation I had was comfortable because I knew him, blah 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 blah. I feel like he was a lot more flashy than the other two. And I kind of feel like he kind of had to be because he is that just outspoken. He is that like kind of like he's never going to be a background character. That's just how Scott is. He's never going to be a background character. And I guess that kind of plays a part into why he was not targeted per se, but like that's why he kind of needed to win out. I don't know. I don't know if there's much else I can say on like I felt comfortable in social situations with him, but it does concern me that he was playing this kind of like this injured dog game, and I feel like if he can own that, like if he can own situations that he I don't know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I guess it's just ownership. Like, yeah.
It sounds like that's what we need for all three.
Scott is competitive and he wants to play the game more than anything else. He wants to play. He wants to do the challenges the best he can, right? And that like he was just excited to play. It was really cute. But also like every time I threw out a plan, he was the one who like crunched the numbers. He was the one who like filed the brass tacks. He's the one who fucking did those puzzles for the idol like so fucking fast, you guys. Like he found the first Hajuma idol in like before I even knew the first clue. Like I don't know. He's just very focused and I don't like and invested. And that's my drawback for John is like maybe he was evident to you guys that he really cared, but I want to watch Scott on TV. I want to watch Scott as a viewer on Triumph.
Not me trying to stick my hand up.
Both Scott and John.
So Frank, in your you just like Scott was the only one to own anything. I felt like yes, okay. Let me reword. I feel like yes, he owned it, but he played this kind of game. He played like he was out of the loop in a lot of situations. I want to, if he can explain that he was actually in the loop and actually had some sort of understanding of awareness. There we go. awareness. There we go. That's what I think I'm trying to say. Yeah, Slay.
So I do want to say one thing. We're saying that Scott owned everything. What I wanted to see out of Scott in the situations, which if we're gonna hold John accountable for not like taking ownership, like Scott had two opportunities when he had the idol and the double vote power to flex on all of us and make us play. He could have been like, I have 2 votes. This is what I'm like. He could have made us literally shaking our pants. It kind of got to that behind the scene. He did execute it, so it did go to fruition, but he could have like
We
really
were wondering.
he
Yeah.
could have stamped his mark and said, like at tribal, I got the idol around my neck right now, or every day before that. You know what I mean? Like something to kind of like show that he's on the bottom, but he has power. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering about during the last travel where you left, because he literally had all the power. All he literally had to do was say, guys, this is what I want done, and it would have been done, but he didn't do that. And I think that's kind of where I was like, come on, Scott, like, what are you doing? Like,
Sorry,
you literally have all the
give-
power.
if you're gonna
But
give like John a personality pass, like that's how
I was just gonna say,
handles-
but Scott isn't that way. Yeah.
yeah, that's how John handles stress, right?
Yep.
He's like quiet and he like relaxes, stays in his safe space. Scott's not that person that's gonna
Absolutely.
be like this, and this. He's gonna freak
No,
out
yeah.
about it and get upset.
That's what he was doing. And
that's
yeah,
what
I
he-
fully expected that from him as well. No,
Yeah,
and
fair.
I didn't mean it in a derogatory sense. That's just what I would have liked to see him do.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a game changing, that would have sold the game for him. Had he been like, nope, this is what we're doing because this is what I have. But he's not that type of person. So it would have been a lot
see
out of
that.
his
I
comfort
see
zone.
that.
And I think he tried to do that in a sense, where he was kind of like, okay, guys, like, we need to talk about this, you know. I think he tried in his own way to do that. But I think we do need to look at all aspects because, like Frank said, I don't think he played a perfect game either. I think there's aspects of each one of them that they played well. I think there's aspects of each one of them that they definitely could have played differently. I think the theme of it, going with the theme, I need to see what choices, right, they made, and the theme is ownership. What are they going to own and what are they not going to own? And that's really what's going to make it or break it for me.
Not only choices, but like why? Because I feel like you can certainly make moves, but like there's no point making moves to make moves. If making moves was like for better of your game rather than just like for the sake of making a move, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Everything has to have a why.
Like I guess,
It's gonna be interesting.
I don't know. I had conversations with all three. They're all very lovely people. I'm not saying anything bad personally about them. Just making that statement out there right now. Cover your mouth, boy. But
Disclaimer.
To me, my conversations with Scott were very like, okay, you're right, you got a point, let's do it type conversations. And it was only during alliance calls. Like I never had one-on-one conversations game wise with Scott. I did talk to Scott and we vibed and we laughed and we had good conversations, but it was never game related. Where I had game conversations with Gage, with Hunter, with Kaylee, with Abby.
That's interesting.
I had game conversations with you guys, even with Bria, and me and Bria were not close at all during this game. So it's just, and then like I said, John would just sit back and kind of disagree or agree, but would never give me an alternative. I never got that from John. I always got the, yeah, that's fine, or maybe not this round, and that was all I got.
So the one time
Yeah.
that John actually gave me an alternative was actually with the Abby vote, because at that time, Abby told me about Scott's idol, but I hadn't told anybody else about it. So I was like, I'm going to push Scott. I'm going to get him out of here with an idol. And then John was like, oh, we should choose Abby. I talked to Gage. I talked to Kaylee. They kind of think Abby. And then that's when I was like, all right, fine. I was against you guys last vote. I'll go Abby this vote just to try to redo some trust or whatever. But I did push Scott at first without anyone knowing he had the idol to try to push that. And John said, no, let's do Abby. And I did go into that.
And I think that's where if Dev had stepped up and said, Hunter's right, we need to take a shot at Abby, you know, or at Scott, then I think it would have flipped. I really think that vote would have flipped at that time.
Because at that time, I was like, oh, I can get Scott out while he has the idol and no one will know. And at the end, if I get like, I was scheming, but it didn't work.
And if that was John's, like, that was John's decision to offer me as an alternative, was it the right call?
When he didn't know that he had the idol, maybe we don't know.
I mean, we really thought it was
if you would have stayed.
I can't speak for John, but John and I were on the same page almost with a lot of things, and a lot of things that we said completely lined up. And it really was the reason keeping Scott was because he did exactly what we thought he was going to do. He was going to be a lone little puppy whereas you had the social prowess to navigate a little bit better without him, whereas he did not. I think we underestimated him at that point is what it comes to in hindsight. I think we may have underestimated him a little bit because he did not lay down and quit. He got up and he said, all right, well, if this is what you guys want, then this is what you guys get, and won immunity. And when he had to, played his idol when he had to, and recruited people that he barely trusted or talked to all season. He talked to Hunter, had Hunter vote with him. He talked to Gage. So I think that speaks a lot to his game as well. Because without you, that's what he did.
I think I underestimated every single person that's in the final three.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't call that at all. So props. I don't know.
I mean, they're there and we're not. So
So I disagree. I think the smarter move would have been to do Scott, only for the fact of he won what 3 out of the first 4 immunities or something like that. And you guys were aware of that, and you guys chose to get out Abby, which I understand why you guys chose to get out Abby. Like, I'm not blind to that fact, but you could have did Abby the next round. No offense, Abby. Like,
would we be as impressed with Scott if he didn't win all these competitions?
That's a good question.
That's a strategy, though. That's a strategy. There are competition beasts in like actual Survivor, and I'm like, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, but
he played like Mike Holloway.
Yeah, exactly. Are we rewarding the most successful comp person or the most well-rounded player?
But it's outwit, outlast, outplay, right? Outplay, outlast. He outplayed. He maybe didn't outwit, but he did outplay.
Well, I mean, I would give him a little bit of credit for outwitting, I guess, because there were ideas that were his. I just need him to own them because I don't know what they are.
I was about to say, what are
they?
Yeah, what are they?
I'm sure that there's something. I just need to know. That's why I'm saying I need to know what he did without you. I need to know what ideas were his without you. The same way I'm sure y'all are looking at John. What ideas did John have without me or Gage or Hunter?
Tired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the same with Dev. What ideas did Dev have without anybody else? Like, so, I mean, it's the same for all three. That's what I want to see completely. I do think Scott played, but I think Lewis has a great point. I don't know that I would be voting for Scott if Scott did not win out.
Yeah.
Frank.
Do we also have to decide the order tomorrow?
Oh yeah.
Also, yeah.
I can go whenever. I'm completely free. So anybody else that needs to go.
I know.
So typically we'd go in juror order, but again, we'll move people around if they need to be late or leave early.
Yeah.
So
I know I'm at least not making it until 30 minutes past.
So kind of just like tack you on the end, Lewis, just in case.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was
We'll
someone else that
we'll
was
put
gonna be-
I'll put a list in the jury chat. You guys just say if you need to be moved around. Otherwise, we'll try to go in juror order as best as we can.
Oh, it was Hunter, but now Hunter is going to be there. That's what I was like. Somebody else is going to be on the end, but Hunter now is going to be there. I'm trying to think if anybody else was supposed to that said they were going to be.
Sean?
I think we're
Doesn't
good.
Sean need to go earlier rather than later?
I think he's good for tomorrow and the
Okay.
time. Yeah, I think he's fine tomorrow, but we can double check. But I think because it's during the day. Yeah, it's earlier.
What about Frank? Anytime.
I'm not. I should be around.
Yeah, I think it was Lewis and Hunter who were the end people that I remember in my head.
I mean, it's going to be an interesting final tribal council. I'm excited to watch it. I'm not going to lie. There's different reasons why I could see all three of them winning, and different reasons why I think all three of them should not win. So, like, I'm excited to see what they did. I love it because I call it Tea Day, because hopefully that's where all the tea from the entire season comes out. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, and I do want to say I know that I've been like pushing John, but I am gonna hear everybody out. Like I am not decided. I'm going to give them all heat, like not just one or the
What
other.
side? I'll
Like
be back.
I was like, what? So I'm excited. I'm gonna push back on all of them, and hopefully that's what my tactic going into the jury question is. I want to put heat on them to see how they handle and compose themselves. Like honestly, I'm not gonna be mean. I'm not gonna be like disrespectful, but I do want to put some heat because they're not gonna know how we feel about them. You know, that's
They're
my
gonna get
tact.
some pressure tomorrow, that's for sure.
Should we post like our questions so that we don't ask like double questions? Or do we want to keep them all to ourselves?
That's for you. That's here. That was going to be my question. Is there something you guys want to discuss in terms of who wants to?
I don't really mind if someone asks the same question. I don't know.
I'm
Like,
gonna
I don't really care, but
I'm gonna give a whole snakes and rats speech, so nobody else do that.
So my idea is to kind of like, if it's 10 minutes per, I'm gonna use 30 to a minute to say what I would like to hear from each person, and then I would like to hear each person take 3 minutes, and then I would recommend to use all of that 3 minutes. And it is very up in the air whether or not you do or don't.
Are you asking a question, Hunter, or are you just giving them 3 minutes to talk? Because they have opening and closing speeches where they're talking freely already. Just make sure you guys know that.
I guess the question that for the 3 minutes would be that, like, if I got there, I would know what I would say to have to say my earning of the spot, and I would like in the 3 minutes to know what they did to earn their spot.
5 minutes of
I think he just wants to put them on the spot, even though they're giving speeches. He wants to put them on the spot.
You have 3 minutes to talk about
They have
yourself.
3 minutes to sway me, you know. So
no.
I can
My Cash App is open, is what
what
you're
their favorite ice cream is.
Right?
And why it's mint chocolate chip?
Don't ask Scott if he likes breast milk, though.
I have a breast milk analogy. I am using it tomorrow.
no.
way.
Be prepared.
Milk isn't that bad, guys. It really
Because
isn't that
no,
bad.
I was gonna call them all out and
How
be
do
like,
you know this? Wait.
This is my cue to go.
I'll ask.
I had 2 kids, right? And I had sex while they were pregnant. It leaks.
You know what? No, I'm done.
He's like, it leaked.
You asked. Don't ask the question if you don't want the answer.
I'll probably ask my age-old question of like, what was your biggest hurdle? How did you overcome it? Blah 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 blah.
I'm gonna have them
we're
close
in a
their
better
eyes.
way than that.
I'm gonna have them close their eyes, and I'm gonna ask them who they think they have their jury vote.
Not this again. No, I see this too many times.
Wait, that's
I hate it.
I personally love this question.
Also, just so you guys know, in case this goes into your strategy of picking your order, the time tolls. So if, let's say, Hunter goes first, and it only takes them 7 minutes total to, or takes them like 7 minutes each to answer his questions, that leaves that much more time for the rest of you. That adds into the total time for everybody.
Yeah, we do pool it. So if somebody doesn't take as long and someone else needs more time, we'll keep track of that for you.
Which I did not like when it was my turn that happened, but that does happen. So just so you guys know as a jury, in case you want to use that as your plans for questioning and things.
Maybe I'll start my questioning by saying I'm more to sit here in silence to stare at each other. See what happens.
First person to cry gets my vote. No.
I'll be like,
Yeah, what's with it?
All right, y'all, I gotta get off here. But it's been lovely seeing you all again. I missed you all so much.
This was a good discussion.
It
So
was
I got a quick
Kaylee.
question. Obviously, don't tell your votes, but before you go, how many people here's vote is up in the air?
Mine is.
Frank's hand is raised. Okay, okay, we got open jury.
Between a couple. You know what? All three. I feel like I'm leaning more one way, but the way they articulate their game might sway me a different direction.
My question to Dev is going to be, how's rehearsal? Those
Well,
are
thank you all.
conversations about rehearsal a lot.
Thanks, Frank. No, but thank you guys all for participating in the roundtable.
Are
I
y'all
know
done?
this doesn't have to be the end, but sounds like you were wrapping up. So if there's other things you want to discuss, feel free. If not, we can all end it.
Did you want us to go longer?
Y'all can go as long as you want. We had a fucking 3-hour rites of passage in season 4, so I mean,
We were not talking 3 hours.
no, I actually wanted to shoot myself.
Is this all part of like a redemption island? Like, is this,
Are we coming back?
No.
I was like, I have to go to bed because I have to be up. So,
guys tomorrow?
I was gonna say
I just
finding
wanna-
Yes,
I was
thank
gonna-
you all for doing Jury Roundtable. I'm gonna stop the recording now, but if you guys need to hang out here.
I was gonna say finding out if John had that idol or not may change how I ask him the question.
I was gonna agree with that. So what do we think if Dev has the idol? Does that increase their chances? What do we think if Scott has the idol? Does that increase his chances? What do you think if John has the idol? Does it increase his chances? And there was safety without power that we still haven't found yet either.
Oh fuck!
If Dev had the idol, I kind of don't think so because she had so many opportunities to use it to at least make some kind of move. So I mean, yeah, you made it to the end with it, but to what degree does that count? So
It's the way we were about to wrap up, and then we just continued.
Right? More 3-hour questioning.
Go ahead.
Yeah, also I would think if John, I don't know how I would look at that because in that situation where it was him, me or Dev, why not whip that out right there and be like, no motherfuckers, this whole time I knew I was making the final 4. Why do all the shenanigans to just say, oh, I don't know how I'd feel about that.
Well, the only person where the safety without power would matter would be John, right? Because Scott can't have it because he lost the thing. Or and then if Dev had it, again, she didn't use it for anything. Like, I mean, neither did John, but like we need more from Dev in that way.
Yeah.
Like if Dev had it,
if you're gonna have an advantage, you should most definitely use it. There's no reason to let it just go to waste.
or if Dev had it and she can articulate, I could not get rid of my vote because this person would not have been eliminated because this vote. If she's aware of that and she strategically said, you know what I mean? Like, this is why I stayed.
For me though, too, I mean, if you're able to hang on to something like that and get to the end and no one knows you had it, because clearly, obviously, none of us know where either one of those things are. So one of them kept it very close to their chest.
That's
so
crazy.
That speaks volumes for me too, because if John had either one of those, I'm telling you right now, I'm probably going to vote for him because he did not tell me, and it would have set him up the entire game to not have to use that to get to the end is impressive, and it means you were privy to a lot of conversations where you felt safe enough not to use it.
Conversely, if Scott kept it secret from me, that would be insane. First of all, I don't buy it, but like that would really like cement my already cemented vote.
I really feel like the only person that it wouldn't have an effect on really is Dev. I feel like it would have a negative effect on her because we all think she should have played it.
Because she was so many times the backup option that like it was so reckless to like hold on to those sort of things. It wasn't smart. It was reckless. It was I don't know. I feel like if I was on the bottom, there's no way I'm just chilling there with 2 advantages, not doing nothing but.
Right? Especially, and I mean, that's why Gage said what he said when in my revote, because he had to take that moment to separate himself. And that's the difference between Gage and John, is Gage took that moment to separate himself from me, whereas John took that opportunity, I feel like, for maybe some sort of jury management and saying, I don't really want to vote you out, because he knew we were that close, but that's what he had to do. And so I don't know. I'm torn, but if he kept that shit a secret, I'm telling you right now, I don't know how I feel about it. I have to see how they position it. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to bed because that was my last question.
In an alternative universe, we would have had a super sexy final three with Hunter, Abby, and myself. They would have carried it by myself. Those two would have been looking fantastic, and I would have been just chilling there trying to compete. So that's it.
Oh my goodness. It was such a pleasure playing with all of you. Like, I've never played with people of this caliber in a
100%.
game like this before. Like, this game was something else. And I know a lot of us were pretty new to Survivor games. And I think we definitely like deserve like our spot, because I mean it was a fight to get here for all of us. So I think we should all be proud of the games that we played up to this point. You know, and hear them out tomorrow. So
Period.
I love you guys.
Bye.
Bye,
What a
guys.
way to end it, Kaylee. Thank you.
Everyone send us your pre-vote, please, right now. Just do it. Just pre-vote.
Why?
We're still